When I sat down to plan this end of year wrap up episode, I didn't really know which direction I wanted to take. But when I thought about why I started this podcast, Life on Purpose, it was to talk about living with intention, choosing the hard things so that you can reap the benefit of a healthy and fulfilling life on the other end of that. I chose to do this by helping other people tell their stories and share their expertise. And when I looked back at this year's interviews, the most listened to episodes were in the series I did with coaches' wives. Early on, I intentionally avoided focusing the show on this topic for a couple of different reasons. Number one, and most selfishly, some of us can lose ourselves in this life. When your entire life revolves around your coach spouse, you're always going to be on the sidelines and in the background. The topics of conversation will always be centered around it. People are interested and curious. It's natural. It's definitely a unique life. And I often joke with Josh that he's the most interesting thing about me. Not my own projects, work, interest, goals, thoughts, or opinions, which are plenty and probably stronger than you might guess. It's not a slight, it's just a reality that many of us face. Unless you're Olivia Mogan. Sorry, Coach McCabe, you are second fiddle there. Love you guys and miss you both. So I wanted to focus on things that were separate from that to set myself apart. I realized that that was disingenuous and ignoring an entire part of myself. And authenticity has always been the goal here. The fact of the matter is, the way we choose to live our lives comes from the many lessons, the trials, tribulations, tests, and triumphs of the life that we live in college athletics, and many from early childhood traumas, but that's a different show. And the second reason, I was scared. There is risk that you open yourself up to here. Talking about this, you never, ever, ever want to put yourself in a position where you say something that upsets anybody or causes a stir or be the headline or anything like that. You certainly don't want to do that. But I think I've reached the age of I just don't care. Maybe it's wisdom or maybe it's perimenopause. Either way, whatever. We're talking about it. So, this one will focus on some of those lessons I took away from this wild profession this past year or two. Both were batshit crazy. So, both as a willing participant in it and as a fervent observer of it, taking lessons from my own life and those I've walked alongside in it. I've watched friends lose jobs, move, be overlooked for certain opportunities. I've watched friends deal with deaths within their coaching circles, face health crises, fight silent battles. I've watched friends celebrate and hold trophies, the whole gamut. So I hope these resonate with everyone, no matter the life you live, but I especially hope that other spouses and families in this world can feel seen as well. When people talk about college sports, the spotlight almost always lands on the head coach and their staff. The wins, the losses, the press conferences, the contracts, the recruiting, player development, NIL, etc. But behind every coach is typically a family managing a most unique life. Being a college coaching family isn't just a role, it's a lifestyle. One built on flexibility, sacrifice, and a whole lot of patience. Seasons don't end at the final buzzer. They stretch into recruiting trips, roster management, and constant phone calls at all hours. The calendar isn't measured in holidays, but in game days and recruiting days. Coaches' families learn early that time is precious and unpredictable. Birthdays might not be celebrated on time or maybe celebrated without them. Vacations can be cut short or have to be scheduled last second or skipped altogether. And weekends, the time most families count on, are often the busiest days of all. Yet somehow they make it work. Flexibility and commitment are key. What people don't always see is the emotional weight. Losses don't always stay at the stadium or arena, as much as they might try to avoid bringing that home. They creep in the stoicism or the stress on their faces. And most stressful of all is the loss of a contract or a job. It can turn your world upside down. Coaches' spouses often become the quiet support system, the listener after a tough game, the steady voice when pressure from fans, media, or administration gets loud, the voice that reminds them that we're in this together, we'll figure it out. They celebrate the wins, yes, the highest of highs, but they also absorb the losses and hold court during the lowest of lows. They're in the background, steady. For the kids, this life can mean moving cities, changing schools, new youth teams, new colors, new fight songs, and learning how to share their parent with an entire program. It teaches resilience early, how to adapt, how to build community quickly, how to cheer from the sidelines or stands, even if you wish your parent were just home for dinner. It means being okay with that parent, sometimes missing your games, holidays, or other special events. And still, many families embrace it. They choose it. They build traditions around road trips. They turn locker rooms into second homes. They form bonds with other coaches' families who understand the lifestyle without explanation. There's pride in being part of it all and knowing that the life lessons that they'll take away are priceless. The highs are worth the lows, and the choice is to do the hard things on purpose. So the next time we lose sight of the realities of this crazy world we call college sports, maybe we widen the lens just a little bit, because behind the clipboard, the headsets, and the play calls is a family making sacrifices that don't show up on the stat sheet or in sensationalized social media headlines, but matter just as much. And the lessons that can be taken from it are abundant. One of the biggest lessons I've learned through all of this is that prayer is powerful. Not in a polished, perfect way, but in a raw, desperate, honest way. I didn't come into this life with all the answers or some unshakable faith. I would actually say it was quite the opposite. I questioned everything and pushed it away for a very long time. I thought it was silly when coaches and players would thank God after a win or title or a draft day. Like God doesn't care that you won that title. Get a grip. There's bigger things for him to worry about. What I was missing was all of the hidden moments leading up to it. They were thanking God for being a part of something that shares a common goal, that forced discomfort, pain, pressure, and they make it out on the other end. They reap the benefits of their discipline and faith. On the other hand, some of them probably are thanking God for that damn trophy. But for me personally, the turmoil of the last 2 years in our family, and especially this past year, stripped me down. There were moments where I felt overwhelmed, uncertain, and completely out of control. And that's where prayer met me. Not when things were easy, but when I had nowhere to go but knees to ground and eyes to the heavens. Being out of a job for a time, 2 seasons in a row, and also after 2 very unique circumstances, meme-worthy circumstances, apparently. I think always trying to hold it all together, it got the best of me. Prayer became less about asking for wins or just something to work out, or more about asking for peace and clarity with whatever happened, for strength, for the ability to get through the weight of expectations, criticism, and uncertainty for the future. It became a quiet conversation in the middle of chaos, a reminder that even when everything around me felt unstable, I wasn't alone. Faith didn't remove the hardship, but it gave it meaning. It gave me something steady to hold on to when things felt unfair or the future felt unclear. It reminded me that our worth isn't tied to records or titles or even our place in this business, and that our family's story means more than any single year or season, good or bad, successful or unsuccessful. Prayer became my anchor, and through all the turmoil, it helped me find peace, not in outcomes, but in knowing we were being carried through it. And strangely enough, the current job we have now, in the city we're in now, was a literal and nearly instantaneous answered prayer. We always make decisions as a family. And after being out of a job for the 2nd season in a row, there were certain scenarios we were working with, decisions to be made. We sat down as a family and we went over all of the options and scenarios on the table and we made a decision together. The weight of that was crushing to me. You never really know if what you are doing is right. You have a lot of different things to think about. You have other people to think about. There's children involved. Is it the right career move? All of those things matter. And silently, I struggled with the decision that we made. I woke up that next morning with the weight sitting firmly on my shoulders. The kids were all at school and Josh was in our office. I was crushed and confused, desperately searching for peace with the decision. So I opened my messages, went to the group chat with all of my coaching wife friends, and asked through tears for them to please pray. I had never done that before. I didn't know what I was asking them to pray for. I left that up to them. I didn't even ask for anything specific. And because most of us try to protect our coaching spouse from the stress that we often feel from it, from this world that we live in, I went upstairs and showered the tears away so he would never know. By the time I came back down, he was walking out of our office, having just received a call from Coach Mills, wanting to discuss a coaching position nobody even knew was open in our home state, a place we had prayed to return to one day in his career. This was a literal prayer answered. So I never again pushed that away. It was a life-changing moment for me. It opened me up to all of the possibilities a spiritual life can bring. It definitely it changed everything. The way that I kind of operate, the way that I move, all of it. So thank you, Coach Mills, for literally answering a prayer. I hope he knows this story. I know his wife Wendy knows this story. I told her, I'm very grateful to them. So, and I hope they know that. We all are. We all are. So, lesson number 2 is learning that in this world, control is mostly an illusion, but how you manage what comes your way is always a choice. So much of this life is decided for you. Schedules change, jobs shift, opinions fly from people who don't know you or your family. Decisions are made in rooms you're not always sitting in, and the lack of control you feel is unsettling, even paralyzing. What I've learned is that while you cannot control outcomes, you can control how you respond. You can choose clarity over chaos. You can choose calm over reaction. Clear communication becomes essential, not just with your spouse, but with your kids, and your support system. So I never want any of my children to feel like they're in the dark or don't have a voice in any of this. Thoughtful decision making matters too. Not rushed decisions made out of fear or pressure, but intentional ones rooted in our values. Asking hard questions, taking pauses when emotions are high. Remembering that not every situation needs an immediate answer. Sometimes it just needs time and wisdom. Managing this life well doesn't mean having all the answers or having all the control. It means staying grounded when things feel unstable. It means protecting your peace, setting boundaries when you can, and choosing to respond with grace even when circumstances feel unfair. In a world where so much is unpredictable, learning how to manage it with clarity, communication, and intention has been one of the most empowering lessons of all. Being intentional, right? Again. Another lesson I've learned is that discomfort cannot be a deterrent. Not in this life. You're always uncomfortable. If it were, we'd never survive it. Because being part of this college athletics world means constantly walking into rooms where you're the new one, the outsider, the family no one knows yet. And at first, the discomfort can feel overwhelming. I think about moments like walking into my son's basketball games in a new town, 2 years in a row, 2 years in a row, mind you, where everyone in the gym has known each other forever. They grew up together, their stories are already written, and you're just stepping into the middle of them. You feel it immediately. The unfamiliar faces, the quiet awareness that you don't quite belong yet, but you go anyway. You take a seat, you cheer, you introduce yourself, you show up even when it's uncomfortable because that's how belonging is built. Not by waiting until it feels easy, but by choosing courage over comfort. Over time, I've learned that discomfort is often a sign that growth is happening, that you're expanding, that you're brave enough to step into the unknown instead of shrinking back from it. This lifestyle doesn't reward staying small. It rewards resilience, openness, and the willingness to walk into spaces that challenge you. I watch our children, who have watched us, walk into uncomfortable situations multiple times. They have learned to thrive. That first bus ride to a new school, that first workout with a new team. We don't avoid uncomfortable situations. We thrive in them because every unfamiliar gym, every new community, every awkward first conversation eventually becomes a part of our story. And the only way through it is to show up again and again until the discomfort fades and connection takes its place. I reflect a lot on the last 2 years and what we've asked our kids to do 2 years in a row. We were in one place for a very long time, 17 years. Our oldest son was 16 years old when we made our first move in this business. And asking him to spend his junior year at a new school and then again his senior year at a new school. There's some guilt that comes with that. Our other children too. But I think there's a lot of guilt with that one because of it's such a pivotal time. But I've been immensely, immensely, immensely proud. And I do think it's because of this world that we come from that they've been able to walk into these situations and be okay. Our oldest, especially, again, I said he's a senior, he's graduating this year, playing on a new basketball team with all kids who've pretty much grown up together, and being able to step into that and really excel, strangely excel. So, maybe I'm learning some lessons watching them because I don't know that I could have been that brave doing that at 17, 16, 17, 18 years old. Another lesson here, we'll keep going. Another lesson I've come to learn is that the meaning of home changes. For a long time, I felt home was a place, a house, a town, a familiar routine, a familiar school or church, a familiar drive or landscape, somewhere rooted and stable. But this life has a way of redefining that idea over and over again. Moves happen quickly, addresses change, seasons end, jobs end. And if you're not careful, you can spend a lot of time grieving what home used to mean. I know I did. Being at one school for a very long time, 17 years, can be both a blessing and a curse. Saying goodbye to a place after that long is difficult, even though you know that longevity in this business is rare, and you know that 17 years is rare. It still doesn't change the fact that formative years, those were some very formative years. There's a song by Need to Breathe called Where You Call Home. And I think all coaching families can resonate with these lyrics. I'll spare you my singing, but definitely look it up. It's about looking back at the whole journey, and it comes into focus and it makes sense. And it's It doesn't always make sense in the moment, but piecing it all together and kind of living in that gallery of time, you can pinpoint where home is. And it reminds me that home isn't about geography, it's about presence. It's about the people you take with you along the way. Home becomes less about where we were and more about who we were with. It becomes the dinner table, even if it was in a new kitchen. It becomes familiar laughter in unfamiliar places. It becomes the feeling of safety we carry with us, even when nothing else feels settled. There was grief in that shift, letting go of the idea that home had to look one certain way. But there was also freedom in realizing that we didn't lose home every time we moved. We brought it with us. That as long as we were together, grounded in our values and our faith, we were never really starting from nothing. This lesson taught me to loosen my grip on permanence and lean into connection because home isn't something you find once and hold on to forever. Sometimes it's something you keep choosing wherever life takes you. And that's what we've chosen to do and how we choose to live. We are in the moment wherever we are. Wherever we are is home. Another lesson I've learned is that not everything deserves a reaction. The world of college athletics can feel like a constant headline. Social media spins stories, narratives form, often without the full picture. It's easy to get swept up, to feel the pull to respond, to defend, or to justify. You get really protective of your coaches, their families, players, and the team. But none of it matters. That world isn't real. What's real is what's right in front of you. Staying focused becomes a kind of armor. It means knowing which battles are worth your time and which ones are better left alone. It means choosing calm over chaos, perspective over anger, and getting the F off of Twitter or X or whatever you call it. It means remembering that the truth isn't defined by the stories other people tell. The truth is the truth and cannot be changed by anyone else's spin. And it's not always for anyone else's consumption. Period. End of story. I wish young people, players especially, I wish knew that they don't have to be on social media. They don't have to read it. They don't have to read it. Just stop reading it. Another lesson I've come to understand is that you have to forgive yourself for not knowing what only time could teach. There are moments in this life when things don't go the way that we had hoped. A job doesn't work out, a plan falls apart, a season feels like a failure, and in the middle of it, it's easy to question everything, to feel like you somehow fell short. But the truth is, some lessons can only be learned in hindsight. Only time and distance can give perspective. Looking back, I've realized that the jobs that didn't work out weren't failures. They were part of the path. They were tests, challenges, and detours that prepared us for something better suited for our lives, pointing us in a direction that we may have never thought of ourselves. What once felt disappointing or even extremely painful was actually teaching us resilience, patience, and clarity. It was shaping us for the next step, even if we couldn't see it at the moment, or even fathom what the next step would even look like. Forgiving ourselves means letting go of regret, embracing the lessons, and trusting that life has a rhythm we can't always control. It means knowing that every setback carries value, even when it doesn't feel that way, and that growth often comes disguised as disappointment. When we allow time to reveal the bigger picture, we start to see that what once seemed like failure was really part of a journey towards a destination that fit us better, a destination we couldn't have reached without the detours. And finally, one of the most important lessons I've learned is to always, always be grateful. This business owes you nothing. It's difficult to get in and it's difficult to stay in. It's a fickle beast. Being in this world, being part of this life, these teams, these players, these coaches, these families, this journey is a gift. Nothing is owed to us. No job, no recognition, no perfect season, no smooth path is guaranteed. It's actually extremely unlikely. Feeling the stresses, but then expressing gratitude shifts the focus from what's missing to what's present. It reminds us to see people who show up for us, the opportunities we're given, the small moments that make this life meaningful. Gratitude turns those hard days into blessings. Odd to everyone, odd to everyone else routines into sacred rhythms. And our routines are odd to everyone else, I would say, most of us. And extraordinary struggles into lessons we can carry with grace. In this world of college athletics, where the only thing that matters is results and headlines, gratitude can keep us grounded, focused, and moving forward. So after all the ups and downs, the moves, the hirings, the firings, and then the hirings and firings again, the late nights, the victories, the losses, the headlines, and everything in between, it's with gratitude for an extraordinary kind of life. I want to thank each and every one of you who listen. This is definitely a passion project for me, and I would love to hear from you. Reach out, give your feedback. I do this to connect with guests, with listeners, and sure, some haters. Go ahead. Let me know what you want to hear more of and who you would like to hear from. So I hope your new year is whatever you want it to be. Thanks again, guys.